So I'm going to briefly just go over some of the tools in Gimp. The best way to learn the tools is to mess around with them yourself. And to help with that, if you hover over a tool, it'll tell you what that is. That's the ellipse select tool. That's the pencil tool. And also, if you go over here, select the pencil tool. If you go over here on the right, you can click the options dialog. So if you click that tool, that's all the options for the tool that's selected on the left. For the pencil, we can change how much transparency is in the thing we're drawing, how big the pencil is, things like that. So now let's look at some of the tools. Here's the selection tools. That's select by rectangle. I'm going to do that. I'm going to edit copy, and I'm going to edit paste. Now you can see it shows these keyboard shortcuts. So I could click Command V, the little flower is Command V to paste. Paste. We can move this thing around. Now we can move it around until we click and do something else. And now we can no longer do that. Now we're back to the selection tool. So now that's locked in on that layer there, and we can't change it. Let's go ahead and undo, or Command Z. Undo, and undo. There's 5 actions there. Nope, still going. I did a lot of things. Undo, rectangle select, and there we go. Back to the original. You can also select an ellipse or circle. Up in the menu items here, there is a select menu. This allows us to change and alter our selections. I'm going to do select none, make that circle go away. The lasso tool here allows us to select a path, so I'm going to roughly select around thorn here. It's not, I could be as careful as I want. I could go right on the edge and very carefully select and use lots of dots to just get exactly him. But I'm just going to be rough here. And to end that selection, you have to click on the first circle you selected. There, now I selected, I'm going to edit copy and edit paste. And now that he's pasted, I can move him around. No, Frodo, don't do that. And again, he moves around until I click the background, and now I can't change him. The fuzzy select tool is good if you have a solid background. I mean, like a solid, if you had a green background or a white background, something like that behind someone, you could use that tool, and you see how it selects an area. It makes a guess. Actually, it'll work pretty good in this cloud here. It selects that area. It's trying to select to the edges it finds. Now a trick with select, if I hold shift, I can add to that selection. So I'm going to keep clicking in the clouds and try and select the area up there. See, that's actually working pretty well. So I've pretty well selected a lot of that fog. I'm going to edit, cut, and see now they're all standing over black instead of over fog. Now if I wanted it to select, you see how it's selecting just small areas? So it's doing a small range of grays. I can change the threshold to a higher number and select none. When I select, it's going to do a wider range. See, it did a wider range there. And so by messing with that, you could select out most of that sky. You got to be careful though, because if it's too wide of a range, it's going to select farther than you want. Anyway, it's kind of a cool tool. You can select by color. So if I click that and click in his white beard, it's going to go through the picture and find everything that matches the color I just selected. And see the spinning wheel, it's taking a while to do that. And now it's gone through and selected all the white. Now this scissor selection tool, let's get back here, Command Z. I'm going to get back to an earlier version, and we'll go ahead and have a couple of thorns there. Select none. Okay, so the scissor tool is pretty cool. You know how I, earlier the lasso tool, and I selected around the edge. Now the scissor tool goes right to the edge on its own, so I'm going to click there and the top of Thorn's head, and it rounds around the edge. I'm going to go down and down, and it is selecting. I want to show you that. Let's go ahead and select, well, let's hit escape. There we go. I want to zoom in so you can see that pretty well. So a way to zoom in is by hitting, you can do it up here on the view menu, there is zoom, or I can hit, there's a tool over here for it, and I can also hit shift plus, or actually really just the plus key. Now I'm going to go try this again. So I'm using the scissors tool, click here, click at the top of his head, and it finds the edge for me. It's doing a pretty good job. And I'm going to hit minus to get back out, and I can go all the way around Thorin, and it is selecting for me. Again, you've got to select, you got to click the end there, and actually on this tool you have to hit return to end that selection. Now it's selected, I could edit, copy, whatever. Select none. Pretty cool tool. I'll skip some of these. Okay, the color selector. You'll see there are two colors here. If I do anything, this is the foreground color I'm working with, and there's the background color. So when you erase, it'll show the background color. Now I could switch those, and when I erase, the background color is now that color, and if I draw, so I've just switched those. Oops. So now the foreground color is that. If you double click those, you can go pick various colors. You can use this tool to set the color that's in there. Let's pick a yellow. If I can hit yellow. There we go, yellow. So now yellow's there. Now the color picker, say I wanted to draw with this beard color here. Find a lighter version of it. So the eyedropper selecting a color. Now let me zoom in and pick a bright red there. Boom. Okay, so you can see when I selected it, it picked that color. So that's a way to get some colors to match. So now when I draw, there's his beard color. So that's the color picker. Zoom, I already mentioned that. That'll let me zoom in. A little measurement tool. This gives us a little protractor and measurement if we want to measure something on the screen. The move tool, I can grab objects on the screen and move them around. The only object right now is the whole image, so that's all I can move. But when I have multiple objects on there, I'll be able to move things around, like when Thorin's separate. And I'll show you how to do that later. Crop tool, this is something you have in iPhoto. If all you needed to crop, I'd say stay in iPhoto. But if you need to do more than crop, then come here. But anyways, select an area and crop, just like in iPhoto. Same with rotate. Hover over that, that's the rotate tool. You can also do that in iPhoto. And scale tool, this lets you change the size of the image. So it's just a smaller or bigger image, but the same thing. These tools allow you to change the perspective and distort them. Let me show you the perspective tool. What's kind of cool about this, let's grab the corners and move it around. Say I was trying to put this image as a piece of paper on a desk in another image or something like that. I can now change the perspective and make it look as if this thing's lying down. Let's take that transformation. So now that looks like something maybe lying on a desk or something. Or say you have a television screen and you want to put this on the screen of the television. You could distort it and change the shape and make it fit. Let's undo that. You can add text to a screen. Change the font size so we can see it. The color is that color there. Let's see if. So now that you can see it there. Now it made a new layer. So if you click on the layers over here, the text is a different layer. So now when I draw, it's not working because I'm on that wrong layer. So let's just get rid of that text. I'll talk about layers in the next video or one of the next videos. Undo eraser, undo text layer. Let's just get rid of that. But that's how you add text. Paint bucket tool. This will paint a whole area. The color you select. And now again, like the magic wand, it's doing all the light gray and not the darker gray, but I can change the threshold and make that paint more of an area. But like in here, if I click on this, it's a nice solid color. that's going to change to whatever foreground color I have. So that is the paint bucket tool. Here is the blend tool. Let's see how that comes out. It's going to go from foreground to background color and in a gradient, so from one color to the other and blend it in. And here it's going to go over the whole image probably and cover it up. It's waiting, it's waiting. And I'll show you practical uses for this later. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Some of these things are probably taking a while because this is a high quality large image. So there it is. You can see foreground color and it blends into the background color. There are some great uses for that that I will show later. Edit, undo the blend. Pencil tool. I think you guys probably discovered this when you're playing with Gimp at first. You can draw with it. You can change the opacity, again make it more transparent. So now, that made the whole layer transparent. Let's go back and fix that tool. So I made my layer transparent. But let's go, if I go to the tool options there, here's where we can do the opacity. And so now when I draw, you can see through what I'm drawing. The paintbrush tool, so now the pencil tool has hard edges. The paintbrush tool is a softer edge. It's very much like using a pencil or a paintbrush. The eraser tool, this will erase down to the background color, which currently is set to that beard color there. So I'm just erasing stuff down to that background color. Airbrush, ink tool, talk about the clone tool later, that's pretty awesome. Now the healing tool, there's one of those in iPhoto as well. There's a little blemish or something on a person's face or something. Basically what it does is take an area and kind of average out the colors in the area around it to blend something in. The blur tool, we will use that later. That allows you to basically blur or smudge. So if I click that and see if this does it. I think it's doing it slowly because of the way the tool is set. But if you look at this, let's just keep going here. Let's see if that worked. I'm going to zoom in, Shift plus, or the plus key. You can see his face has been blurred by this blur tool. Now this is pretty important when I cut and paste things. When you cut and paste, you end up with a real sharp edge, and you make it. You can blend it in pretty well by blurring it, like I'm actually doing right there. So blur, blur, blur. Okay. And then the smudge tool is kind of funny. You can take something and just blend it and smudge it. Okay, so that's pretty much the tools. And undo and some other things. So again, just mess with the tools. Try it out. The best way to learn is to do it. So mine is back out. And then we'll move on. I'm going to show you some more detailed, specific tools and features in the coming videos.